Hi, I am Anna. I come from www.ntvforex.com. USD trying to hold onto its post-FOMC gains analysis. http ntvforex.com News ID 30F4A882020 2010 6 am Notes Observations No surprises on rate decisions in session. Both Norges and Philippines kept policy steady. China and US to keep dialogue open on trade, with a call taking place soon. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un said to be sharing power with his sister Asia. US and China officials reportedly plan to hold video conference in coming days to discuss progress fulfilling terms of Phase 1 trade agreement. China monthly loan operation left both 1-year and 5-year loan prime rate unchanged at 3.85% and 4.65% respectively for the fourth straight month. China said to be cautious about hitting U.S. companies back after the Hawaii sanctions. Analysts believed China would hold back as they did want to upset the economic benefits innovations U.S. companies brought to China. RBNZ Assistant Gov Hawksby size and composition of balance sheet will become a more active tool for monetary policy decisions. Coronavirus total global cases 22,328,069 1.2% DD total deaths 786.3k 0.9% DD Europe German Finance Ministry report July tax revenues 0.3%. Expected plunge in fiscal revenues caused by lockdown measures to contain the COVID-19 pandemic proving less steep than originally feared. America's FOMC July minutes pace of employment gains had likely slowed. Most members agree yield caps and targets would likely provide only modest benefits in current environment. Banks could come under significant stress in a more adverse virus scenario. USTR Lighthizer Phase 1 trade deal with China was pretty much on track. Saw Chinese purchases on Phase 1 deal as challenging but believed was doing very well. US suspended its extradition treaty with Hong Kong. NBSP speakers fixed income FX commodities Iratum equities indices STOXX 600 1.1% at 365.6, FTSE 1.19% at 6,039, DAX 1.2% at 12,823. CAC 41.4% at 4,907, IBEX 35 1.2% at 7,008, FTSE MIB 1.3% at 19,801, SME 0.7% at 10,236, S&P 500 futures 0.4%. Market focal points key themes European indices opened down across the board, slipping further as the session wore on. Risk sentiment affected by U.S.-China tensions and rising COVID cases. Underperforming sectors include financials and materials. Better performing sectors include telecom and utilities. Reportedly Accor looking to merge with Intercontinental Hotels. Reportedly chipmakers see weaker shipments. Earnings expected in the upcoming U.S. session include Alibaba, Cree, and Estée Lauder. NBSP equities consumer discretionary tag Immobilien TEG.DE 4% earnings offering materials CRH.UK 1.5% earnings industrials. BAM Group BAM NB.NL 1% earnings, Antofagasta Anto.UK 4% earnings. NBSP speakers central banks BOE, BOJ, SNB, and Fed to reduce frequency of 7-day USD liquidity operations from 3x to 1x per week effective September 1. Norway Central Bank Norges policy statement reiterated its forward guidance that deposit rate would most likely to stay at current level for some time. NOK currency crown and low wage growth suggested inflation would moderate further out. Domestic economy in the midst of a deep downturn. Philippines Central Bank BSP policy statement noted that its monetary policy stance remained appropriate and remained committed to deploy all tools as needed. Saw early signs of economic recovery and inflation within target. China Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Jian have decided that Hong Kong to suspend agreement with U.S. on some legal cooperation. Note comments after U.S. suspended extradition treaty with Hong Kong. China Commerce Ministry MOFCOM spokesperson Jiao Feng echoed stance that China and U.S. agreed to have talks soon regarding trade. China Supreme Court said to lower ceiling on private lending rates. Interest rate of private loans in China could not exceed 4 times of PBOC's 1-year loan prime rate. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un said to retain absolute power, but US and South Korea issues to be handled by his sister. NBSP currencies fixed income USD rebounded from 2-year lows in the aftermath of the FOMC July minutes as officials expressed concern about the path of the recovery, and reiterated that the virus was in charge right now. The greenback was aided by the degree of shorts in the markets beforehand, thus allowing the dollar to have its best session since June. Dealers noted that speculation had been rife that the Fed could adopt an average inflation target. The failure to announce such an event prompted the USD short covering. EUR/USD at 1.1830 area by mid-session. Pair unable to break above the key 1.20 psychological level during the week. The 1.15 area suggested to be the new floor in the pair. NBSP Economic Data NL Netherlands June consumer spending YY 7.0% v 11.9% prior. NL Netherlands July unemployment rate 4.5% v 4.6% NL Netherlands OG consumer confidence index 29 v 26 prior to Germany July PPI 0.2% v 0.1% EYY 1.7% v 1.8% ECH Swiss July trade balance 3.4 billion Swiss francs v 3.2 b prior. Real exports 2.3% v 8.1% prior. Real imports 1.1% v 5.1% prior. Swiss watch exports YY 17.0% v 35.1% prior. CH Swiss Q2 industrial output YY 8.6% v 0.6% prior. Industry AMP construction output YY 7.7%. v 0.5% prior. SE Sweden July unemployment rate 8.9% v 9.8% E unemployment rate seasonally adjective 9.2% v 9.5% E trend unemployment rate 9.4% v 9.3% prior. SE Sweden Q2 total no of employees YY 1.9% v 0.3% prior. PH Philippines Central Bank BSP left overnight borrowing rate unchanged at 2.25 as expected. TW Taiwan July export orders YY 12.4% v 3.1% No Norway Central Bank Norges left deposit rates unchanged at 0.00% as expected. PL Poland July industrial output 3.4% v 1.5% EYY 1.1% v 1.2% EPL. Poland July PPI 0.3% v 0.3% EYY 0.6% v 0.6% EHK Hong Kong July CPI composite YY 2.3% v 0.5% ETW Taiwan Q2 current account balance $21.8 billion v $18.2 billion prior. EU Eurozone June construction output 4.0% v 29.4% prior. YY 5.9% v 10.5% prior is Iceland Q2 unemployment rate 6.9% v 3.6% prior. Fixed income issuance FR France debt agency AFT sold total A 6.997 b versus A 5.57.0 b indicated range in 2024, 2025 and 2027 bonds sold A 1.505 b in 1.75% November 2024 OAT average yield 0.59% v 0.30% prior bid to cover 2.76x v 4.67x prior sold A 3.387 b in 0.00% March 2025 OAT average yield 0.57% v 0.48% prior bid to cover 1.79x v 2.16x prior sold A 2.106 b in 1.00% May 2027 OAT average yield percent v 0.23% prior bid to cover 2.32x v 1.90x prior. SE Sweden sold 1.0 billion Swedish kronor versus 1.0 billion Swedish kronor indicated in 0.125% IL 2030 bonds average yield 1.4272% v 1.2325% prior bid to cover 2.46x v 3.39x prior. UK DMO sold A 1.1 b in 0.125% August 2028 inflation linked gilts UKTI real yield 2.882% v 2.509% prior bid to cover 2.44x v 2.77x prior. IE Ireland debt Agency NTMA sold A750M versus A750M indicated in 6-month bills average yield 0.540% v 0.510% prior bid to cover 3.00x v 3.00x prior NBSP looking ahead 0550 FR France Debt Agency AF to sell a 0.51.0 B in 2028, 2032 and 2036 inflation-linked bonds ODI 0600 IL Israel June manufacturing production no ESTV % prior 0600 PT Portugal June current account balance no ESTV A 1.8 B prior 0600 RO Romania to sell RON 500M in 3.65% 2025 bonds average yield % v 3.79% prior bid to cover XV 1.98x prior 0645 US. Daily Libor fixing 0700 TR Turkey Central Bank CBRT interest rate decision expected to leave 1-week repo rate unchanged at 8.25% 0730 EU ECB account of July monetary policy meeting minutes 0800 UK Daily Baltic Dry Bulk Index 0830 US AUG Philadelphia Fed Business Outlook 20.8 EV 24.1 prior 0830 US Initial Jobless Claims 920K EV 963K prior continuing claims 15.00 MeV 15.486 M prior 0830 CA Canada July Terranet House Price Index no ESTV 0.7% prior YY no ESTV 5.9% prior HP Index no EST V 238.19 prior 0830 CA Canada July ADP payroll estimates no ESTV 1.042 M prior 0830 US weekly USDA net export sales 0900 RU Russia gold and forex reserve WE August 14 no ESTV $600.7 billion prior 1000 US July leading index 1.1% EV 2.0% prior 1030 US weekly EIA natural gas inventories 1030 SE Sweden Central Bank Riksbank DEP Govs Kingsley 1130 US Treasury to sell 4-week and 8-week bills 1200 RU Russia July unemployment rate 6.3% EV 6.2% prior real wages YY 0.1% EV 1.0% prior 1200 RU Russia July real retail sales YY 4.5% EV 7.7% prior 1200 CA Canada to sell 2-year bonds 1300 US Fed S Daily discusses the new future of work 1300 US Treasury to sell 30-year tips 1500 AR Argentina June Economic Activity Index monthly GDP 10.0% EV 10.0% prior YY 13.3% EV 20.6% prior BR Brazil July tax collections BRL no ESTV 86.3 B prior MX Citibanamex survey of economists BR Brazil AUG CNI industrial confidence no ESTV prior 1700 KR South Korea July PPI YY no ESTV 0.9% prior 1900 Australia AUG preliminary PMI manufacturing no ESTV 54.0 prior PMI services no ESTV 58.2 prior PMI composite no ESTV 57.8 prior 1901 UK AUG preliminary GfK consumer confidence no ESTV 27 prior 1930 JP Japan July national CPI YY 0.3% EV 0.1% prior CPI fresh food core YY 0.1% EV 0.0% prior CPI fresh food energy core YY 0.5% EV 0.4% prior 2000 KR South Korea AUG MTD 20-day imports YY no ESTV 13.7% prior exports YY no ESTV 12.8% prior 2110 JP BOJ outright bond purchase operation for 1-3 years 5-10 years and 25 years maturities 2030 Japan AUG preliminary PMI manufacturing no ESTV 45.2 prior PMI services no ESTV 45.4 prior PMI composite no ESTV 44.9 prior 2300 NZ New Zealand July credit card spending no ESTV 14.0% prior YY no ESTV 9.2% prior 2300 CN China to sell 3-month and 6-month bills 2300th Thailand Central Bank to sell THB10B in 2023 bonds 2330 JP Japan to sell 3-month bills. Subscribe our channel to receive the news as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. If you want to read real-time news, text messages to MT5 Expert Advisors page at https://m.me mt5.expert.advisors.